Okay, what I'd like to talk to you about now is the Super Nintendo AC adapter, part number SNES 002. If you get a machine in and the light doesn't come on the front of the Super Nintendo, the first thing you need to suspect is the AC adapter. To test the AC adapter, you turn on your voltmeter. The output of this is a DC voltage. It's close to 1 amp. It's about 850 milliamps, I believe. And it's around 10 to 12 volts. So go ahead and plug it in. And then you can use your voltmeter to test. In this case, it's 14 volts DC, unloaded. Once you load it, it probably would, it'll probably give you a different reading, but unloaded it's 14 volts. So this one is good, but let's assume that it is not, okay? If it's not good, the first thing you need to do, if you don't get any voltage out of here, no voltage out of the end, first thing you need to do is switch your meter to ohms, okay? In this case, I've switched it to ohms. Take your AC adapter, and the first thing you want to test is the primary windings. Take your voltmeter, your ohm meter, and put it across the primary windings, just touching it to these two outlet arms. You should get approximately 60 to 65 ohms, somewhere in there. 60 to 65, 50 to 65 is probably the range you want to get. If it reads infinite, it means that your primary winding is burned up, and it probably is not worth repairing at this point. Okay, I'll go over what to do in just a minute. So first of all, check primary windings. Should get about 50 to 65 ohms. If those are fine, then the next thing you need to do is check your secondary. Your secondary, on a good one, should read open. It should read infinite. If it doesn't, then there's probably something in the DC and rectification circuits inside. So at that point, you'll want to proceed with opening this and effecting repair, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay? So let's assume that this tests good, so we'll proceed with the repair of the AC adapter. If these test bad, if it's an open winding, then you want to go ahead and just get rid of this. What I usually do is sometimes I'll cut the cord off and save the cord and open this up and save some of the components inside, but it's not usually cost effective to do that. Cut the cord, and then you can replace this with a generic one, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. In other cases, you can actually open it up. What I've taken is a pair of needle nose here, show you on the close-up, and I've ground them down on a grinder so that they're real thin and narrow, and I'm able to fit those down inside the AC adapter. Okay, and then the screws to the AC adapter, and you can then go ahead and unscrew these. Now that we've got the screws to the top, you can lift the screws out, set them aside, and the top will then slide off. You got to be careful with this strain relief. Slide it off and set the top aside. That exposes the inside of the AC adapter. Again, right here is where it usually blows up. If you look, this little wire over here on the left side, that usually blows up when this goes bad. Some of you may be able to jump that and get it going again, but usually it's not worth it. This is the secondary of the transformer. It's a center tap, and it uses two rectifying diodes here. That they might be bad, but again, usually not. It's usually the primary that goes bad, or this cord will break, usually right about here, right just after the strain relief. So I'll show you how to repair that in just a moment. But you can save, if you're going to throw this away, you'll want to unsolder the cord and keep that and then come in here and unsolder these 4 connections and keep this little circuit board, because down the road you'll probably have one of these that goes bad. One of these filter capacitors goes bad, wears out, they'll get, electrolyte will tend to evaporate and get thin, and it will now get the ripple through, and you can replace that, or use a standard rectifying diode like a 1N4001 in place of these two to fix that. Okay? So the 2 common problems of the AC adapter are primary burning out, and then you'll have the cord will break, because normally what happens when people put this, store it away, or they take it on trips with them, what they do is they take this and they wrap the cord like this, which is improper. If you wrap it like that, you'll notice that it creates a really sharp bend in the cord right at this point. Okay? Creates a real sharp bend at that point, and you don't want to create that. Over a period of time, that will break, and you'll have an open wire. So if the primary checks out okay, and you're still not getting any voltage, what you then want to do is check out the cord. What I do is I run my fingers along the cord like this, checking for animal bites. If there's any animal bites or cuts or burns or anything like that, you don't find any, or if you do find any, what you want to do is cut the cord off prior to the burn, and then move it up, strip it back, and move it up and solder it in there. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. If you don't find any cuts in the cord, and then what you want to do is turn on your voltmeter. Okay, flip this over, and the diagram on the embossed diagram on the cover shows you which is negative and which is positive. So the outer shield is negative. I'm sorry, it's positive. So what you want to do, I like to put this on continuity, touch it to the outside and then touch it to the positive connector, and you should get continuity. Okay? Touch it to the inside and touch it to the negative, and you should get continuity. If you don't, then there's a break in the cord somewhere, and 9 times out of 10, it's where this cord has been bent. So what you want to do, you want to take the cord and clip it right about here, just about an inch or 2 past where you think the break occurred. And again, it usually occurs just after the strain relief, right in here somewhere. So clip the cord right about here, strip it back. You can take a razor blade and strip this strain relief back and peel that back. But what I usually do is I cut it here, or if there's a bite somewhere, I cut it, and then I move this up. And what that does is that repairs the connector, repairs the AC adapter, and with just the material that you have. You don't have to use any material. It shortens the cord a little bit. In most cases, the cord length is sufficiently long anyway, even if you cut off about a foot or 2. So that's the way you effect repair there. If there's something burned out here or in here you don't want to repair, then what I recommend that you do is go ahead and clip the cord off, and I'll show you how to make a little adapter so that you can use a standard off-the-shelf AC adapter, and you don't have to go back to Nintendo. So replace the strain relief, and then you can put the lid back on the AC adapter, and at that point you'll want to plug this in and test it, and then you can go ahead and secure those screws with the modified needle nose and return it to the customer. We've showed you how to repair the inside of the AC adapter. What I'm going to show you how to do is how to make an adapter on the Super Nintendo. Normally, this is the most cost-effective method, and this way you'll get repeat customers that'll come back to you for the AC adapter. What I recommend that you do is first take the AC adapter and take this old cord and clip it off somewhere about a foot or so from the adapter. Then take this, and you won't need this anymore, so you set it aside. Okay? Now you've got the end. This is the valuable part. This is the part that you want to keep. What I recommend that you do is take a standard RCA plug. And what I like to do is I like to take the male end of it and mate with the male end of this, and I'll show you the reason for doing that. What you want to do is you want to strip this back far enough to expose the shield, and then you want this inner green has to, the inside green lead, insulated green lead, has to fit inside the point of the RCA jack. So then I strip it back a ways, and this inserts, I like to group the end. This will insert on the center and protrude out the end a little. I don't know if you can see that or not. Protrudes a little. Now you want to take some solder, heat up your soldering iron, and you'll want to solder that end. Okay? So now that you've soldered that end, go ahead and clip the end of that, and you've got this part here now. What I do is I wrap it on the inside like that. Wrap it on the inside, wrap it once around, and then loop it through the inside. Okay? Then I take the solder and I solder it to the base to give it a good solid connection like that, and then I clip the remaining off and throw that away, and then you can clip this down as a strain relief. So essentially that's what you've got now. You've got a male end on the other end of the unique Nintendo. Okay, what that creates is it creates a little adapter. Okay, now what I like to do is I went out and I bought a standard. Here I have a standard just a generic transformer that meets the spec of the original Super. You want to look for a 12 volt DC with about a 1 amp output. Okay, this one had a connector on the end, which I just cut it off. Okay, you want to make sure that you follow. If you take the old Nintendo, take the old Super Nintendo embossing, and you'll see that the outer portion of it is positive. So what you want to do is you want to strip these back and make sure you know which end of this is positive. Okay, and the idea is to now put the female end. To now put the female end on this end, which will mate with the male end here, and that will then give you a transformer that will work on the Super Nintendo, and they can come back to you for replacements should it break, because it has this. You've now made this adapter, which will work in the future. So now I have the female adapter hooked onto here. I've attached the male to the other end. I'm going to join them, and then I'm going to plug this in, move this to DC volts, plus should be on the outside again, and sure enough I get about 16 volts. So now I have an AC adapter, and when plugged into the Super Nintendo and turned on, will give me a light. And that's probably what you'll want to do in most of the cases. The reason for that is, now in the future you've now given the customer the liberty of going anywhere in the country and getting an AC adapter. And they may want to bring it back to you to put the female RCA jack on the end. Okay, one of the last things we need to talk about is the Super Nintendo controller. And basically there's three major components to this. There's the cord, the printed circuit board, and then the casing and the buttons that go with the casing. The cord is a non-standard 7-pin adapter, and it's linear and fits into the front, obviously. Now you'll get some of these in where this plastic is broken off, and they can go ahead and use them. We're going to try to get some cables in, and we will have replacement cables, so check with us on the pricing. So if the cable's broken or cut somewhere, you may be able to just repair it. In some cases you'll need to replace it. Okay? This cable is, the connector is the same as the connector that fits on the Japanese version, incidentally. There are 5 screws that need to be removed to get access to the inside. And I'm going to go ahead and put the towel down so we don't scratch up the connector cover. These are just standard Phillips screws that you don't need a special tool to get into this. Back comes off, and this is a little tricky now. In addition to the 10 functions on the top, you have up, down, right, left, select, start, A, B, X, and Y. You have to the right up at the top, and there's a little lever and an axle that fits in there. And you want to be careful. I've had some people take these apart and try to repair them, and they've lost that. So you may want to be careful. The cord comes off by simply pulling it out and around the strain relief that's in there, and then unplugging it. And you can unplug it by rocking this piece back and forth, and it'll come right out of the plug. Okay? Now this is what the cord looks like. Now, there's a way that you can repair this if you need to. If the cord is cut here, what you can do is you can take your desoldering wick and unsolder and take this connector off. Take the connector off of here. Okay? And then if the bite or the cut occurs right in here, what you can do is cut it prior to that and move the wire up, stripping it back, and then attaching the wires as shown, as they are here. Okay, and the colors are from white, yellow, orange, red, and brown. So you want to go white, yellow, orange, red, and brown in that order. So you can desolder this connector, strip this back, and then just solder the wires directly onto the board. Again, that gives you the latitude of not having to go to Nintendo to get these replacements. You can now shorten this. There's 2 little circuit boards that are attached via 2 small wires, and those can get rocked back and forth, and those wires can break, so you want to be careful on that. First thing you want to check is check the circuit board to see if there's any dirt, and remove any dirt that's on there.